Hey folks, it's Rod with Pow Group. Welcome back on the Pursuit of Wealth, your home for MJ Stocks, crypto assets, news and interviews. Today's Thursday, brand new month, May 1st. Hope you're well. And in this video, we're going to review SNDL's Q1 2025 earnings and conference call. I did join the call. It was pretty short and sweet, and they did miss in terms of revenue, but they had a slight beat in terms of EPS, earnings per share. Posted a video yesterday doing an earnings prep, and it was essentially pretty much bang on for the most part. So we'll discuss all of that and more. We'll take a look at the chart as well and see the price damage that occurred as of today. And we'll discuss all of the other details. Before we do, make sure to smash the like, help support me in the channel. If you're new, you can subscribe, tick the bell, you'll be notified on any future videos or when I go live. And as always, this is not financial advice. This is for entertainment purposes only. And I do own SNDL in my portfolio. You can also follow us over on X, formerly Twitter. Handle for that is @GroupPow. Going to be using that as my platform of choice going forward. And just a quick housekeeping item, I do have a new mic that I'm testing out. For some reason, I have a brand new, I have two brand new mics. One's a Yeti, and it just, for whatever reason, has a mind of its own, my software that I use to do screen sharing. And some days it's super hot, it runs super hot, and I don't change any settings. It just depends on when the computer starts up. So I think it's the software though, because I've used different streaming softwares. I'm looking into permanent replacement, and I recently got a new computer as well, so I don't think it's that. Yeah, it's very strange. Like I said, sometimes I'll open it up and it's fine. Other times, very very much an issue. So hopefully it's coming through good here at the moment. But we'll take a look at the estimates from yesterday in my video when we did the earnings prep. So essentially, we were expecting 208 just over 208 million in terms of revenue and negative 0.065 in terms of EPS. Revenue came in for the quarter, and it was, oops, this looks like this was the wrong article here. Here we go. So revenue came in for the quarter of 204.9 million. So very close to what we had anticipated, just a few million off. And obviously seasonality playing a big factor as well. You can see the last few quarters from the April, and then this one says April 23rd. I'm not sure why that, but you can see here around the May time it drops down significantly. Last year, May 8th, 2024, yeah, it went from 248 down to 197, and then March 257 to April 30th, 204. So it's that seasonality. I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that they're into retail, so alcohol retail, huge drop off in sales. This was for the period ending March 31st, I believe it was. So if we scroll down, yeah, March 31st, 2025. So you have to think like all the dry January, etc., right? So I think that's why you have such a big drop off there. But in terms of EPS, I added up all of the estimates, and like I said, we had negative 0.06 was 65 was the estimate. And if we go over here to our consolidated financials, you can see here basic and diluted was negative 0.06. So they did have a slight beat in terms of EPS. It still came in negative though. And like I said, we did have a miss in terms of revenue. So the stock was down quite a bit today. From the high of yesterday to the low of the day today, it was down about 11.7%. As of right now, though, no major chart damage. I mean, we just confirmed a daily downtrend, but on the weekly time frame, we're looking for weekly consolidation. We're still in a weekly downtrend. I mentioned we're still going to be a while yet before we see a higher low and a higher high. So still a lot of work to do there in terms of the weekly time frame. I'm just checking my notes. We were discussing this in the Pow Group private community earlier today. So they did announce that they were listing on the CSE, the Canadian Securities Exchange, and that kind of raised some eyebrows, at least for me. And then in the earnings report today and on the conference call, they discussed how they're going to be initiating a strategic review of their listings. So they might potentially, they said nothing's set in stone, right? They're just reviewing it. There's no guarantee that there's going to be any outcome of this. There's no guarantee that they're going to be actually following through with delisting on the US major exchanges, but essentially they're going to be floating the idea of giving up their US listing, at least while it remains federally illegal. And if they have any kind of operations in the US, they can't list on US major exchanges, right? So there has to be a trade-off there. So that kind of makes sense when you think about it, because they recently prepared to list on the CSE. So I think this is kind of just, preparing for that if it were to happen. So again, I was a little put off by this. I was a little confused why they would do that, but now it makes a lot of sense if they're looking to potentially give up their U.S. NASDAQ listing. Well, that would mean that they'd be on the TSX and on the CSE. So we'll see what happens there. And they said that they expect some sort of update soon over the coming months with regards to the restructuring of SkyMint and Sunstream. So we'll see what happens with those vehicles. But if we go over to excise taxes here, they had a decent bump up in margin too, but you can see here excise taxes for the quarter was 12.22 million. So still their gross revenue was 217 million, but you have to remember their MJ retail, their alcohol retail, a lot different than their MJ operations, and that's where the excise tax comes from there. But yeah, cash and cash equivalents at the end of the period was 220.867 million. Checking the rest of my notes, I think that was pretty much it. They didn't give any insight into the 420 sales, so April 20th. So we'll see that on the next report, right? This is for March 31st. I thought they would have updated some sort of numbers on it, and we didn't get any questions about it. We did get some questions about their Rise rewards program. They didn't really say too much. There were some questions with regards on the conference call from analysts. It was pretty short and sweet. It was like 30 minutes. They did the whole spiel and Q&A session in about 30 minutes. So it was, like I said, it was definitely short and sweet comparative to some of the other peers in the sector. Sometimes they go an hour, hour and a half, sometimes almost 2 hours. So, you know, and to be completely honest with you, Zach George, CEO, didn't seem too upbeat during the call. I'm not really taking anything away from it just yet, but seems like it was a little lackluster, I guess is all I had to say about the call. But in terms of the what was I going to say? In terms of there was one other thing I wanted to mention in terms of the conference call. The oh yeah, that's what it was. It was excise taxes. So there was an analyst question about, you know, do you see any under the new leadership with the Liberals and Mark Carney at the helm? Do you see any, you know, improvements in excise taxes? He said no, not really seeing anything in the near term for that, but hope kind of cautiously optimistic. And then he believed that we were going to see some sort of increase in the edible, um, the the amount that you can have in a single pack. So we should see that go from 10 milligram to 100 milligram more than likely. But yeah, overall hit by seasonality, and they did miss in terms of revenue, slight beat in terms of EPS, and like I said, they did have an increase in margin. So if we scroll down here, gross margin for the first quarter was 27.6, setting a new record for the company. This represented an improvement of plus 2.2 percentage points year over year. So pretty decent overall. Like I said, they did have an operational loss, and I think that's pretty much all I have for this report. It's pretty lengthy, so if you want to go through and read it, feel free to do so on your own time. And you can go through their MD&A as well. They also had an updated investor presentation during the call. But if we take a look here at the daily time frame, like I said, we did confirm a daily downtrend, so we could potentially see weekly consolidation as early as next week. But weekly inside bar just tightening up with the possibility of another weekly inside bar into next week and a monthly inside bar as well. So stock has been, just like every other MJ name, pretty much has been absolutely destroyed over the last 6 months. Well, really, it's been happening for multiple years since 2021. But you can see just in the last 6 or 7 months or so, things have been really bad, down about 50%. Some names down, like if you look at GTBIF from the high of April 2024, so last year, it's down about 72%. And then you got some other names that are down even more than that. But overall, SNDL just, you know, following the rest of the sector, and we're near all-time lows, 52-week lows, near all-time lows. We did have a bear flag target. I mentioned this yesterday of $1.25, and we hit $1.26. So we're scouting a longer-term bottom here, and we could see an EMA 12 and 26 bull cross over the next few days. So we'll see. It's more than likely going to coincide with some sort of sector news and sector strength, because we are seeing the sector start to wake up a little bit, especially with some of the commentary we've seen in the US lately, which I mentioned on my video yesterday, so I won't go into that too much in detail, but just go to my channel, click on videos, and then you'll see all of the videos I posted in the last few days. But yeah, DEA rescheduling, making that MJ rescheduling a priority, and then the MJ Council of Canada calling for immediate action with regards to certain topics like excise tax and going to one national stamp and cutting the illicit market as well. But overall, not the greatest report. We'll see what happens with their NASDAQ listing. Again, there's nothing set in stone, so we'll just continue to keep tabs on that as it develops. And I'll see what I can do about having Zach George on the show as well for an interview. If you're interested in seeing that, please let me know, and feel free to reach out to SNDL directly through their investor relations and let them know that you would like to see that interview. That's something that we did with some of the other CEOs in the space and companies. A lot of the community would reach out to them through their investor relations, and if enough people hound them, then they feel obliged to do that, right? So, all right, going in it there. If you joined the conference call, let me know what you thought of it, and let me know what you think of these earnings. What was your biggest takeaway from the earnings report and the conference call? Always love hearing from you. All right, it's Rod with Power Group. Thanks again for joining us in the Pursuit of Wealth, and we'll catch you on the next one.